Well, good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to.
Turn yourself on.
I am turned on. Welcome to 2019, huh? Boy. Well, my topic today is about spiritual evolution, and this is one of those topics that it just it has so many rabbit trails for me. There's just so much wonderful stuff to think about and to really spend some time just sort of gathering all the random thoughts I have over the years and kind of say, well, all right, guys, what do we want to say about this? So evolution itself, just the term, gets thrown around, and to me, it always just is kind of a wonder. It's how we look around and see how life evolves and unfolds and shows up and changes, and it always, for me anyway, I'm always trying to peek over the horizon and say, where are we going? You know, what's this all about? What is this thing? How does this happen? So just the topic of evolution is just, man, don't get me on a Google and because there's just so much rich, good stuff out there on thoughts and just a way to think about this process of life that we're part of. So I'm going to include that a little bit, but I'm going to talk a little bit about spiritual evolution, because there's many kinds of evolution. When we categorize, we evolve culturally, we evolve biologically, we evolve physically. There's lots of ways of describing evolution. And spiritual evolution is a very special part of that. And it's the purpose that it's the reason we selected that as the theme for January, because it is the central aspect of evolution, and important for us as a spiritual center to really sort of have a framing, a way to think about spiritual life as it relates to all evolution. So a little bit of definition. Spiritual evolution is, according to Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, which I studied for a number of years, says spiritual evolution is the awakening of the soul to a recognition of its unity with the whole. So awakening of the soul, that's what we call evolution, or spiritual evolution. It awakens to the unity with the whole, with the all that is. Unity and wholeness already exists, so unity already exists, but it needs to be realized in each of us. It can only be what we believe it to be. So that's the process of spiritual evolution, is awakening to that which is already true. Material or cultural or physical or biological evolution is merely the physical form outpicturing of the idea, or the inner spiritual evolution, the inner idea. That's what most of us are familiar with, is the outpicturing. It's the effect, not the cause of evolution. And so it's really easy for us to get kind of turned around and say, well, human mind and consciousness evolves as the brain gets a little bigger, and then as humans progress biologically and intellectually, then consciousness will expand and move through the world. Well, it's actually the other way around. We get kind of transfixed on physical form, and we forget the principle that our ancients have told us forever, that form follows thought and idea. So long before my brain got bigger, somebody had an idea that it's time for my brain to get bigger. And as we look through the evolution of humanity and see the evidence, but there was something behind that. There was a spiritual, a creative idea that there was time and there was conditions were amenable to human beings becoming more consciously aware of who they were and how the world and the cosmos worked. And therefore, then they moved into that with a succeeding biological and cultural and physical increase or evolution. So that's one thing to remember, because we kind of lose that first there's the idea, first there's the thought, first there's the impulse, and then there's the outflowing or outpicturing. Material evolution is the effect, not the cause. Ernest Holmes says, so where is this going? So what's the purpose? So why is there this evolving thing? Well, Holmes says the aim of evolution, including spiritual and physical, the aim is to produce a human being who at the objective point of his or her own self-determination, at his or her own point of choice, completely chooses to manifest the inner life of spirit outward into his or her life. So that's where this is all going, to the point where we, by using our free will and making a choice, choose to express spirit, express God, express the divine idea in back of us more fully as us. Bring it into the world. That is the sort of goal of evolution. That's where it's all headed. That kind of gives me a little bit of a framework. I don't know about you, but kind of a nice feeling is because I often wonder where is all this going? Well, it's kind of headed there, if you believe that. And sages long ago and spiritual traditions have come to the same conclusion over a period of time. 500 BC, Greek mathematician Pythagoras. I always thought of him as a mathematician. The Pythagorean theorem is what I'm familiar with. But this person was a great thinker and philosopher. Started a mystery school and really formed the basis for the evolution of spiritual thought and tradition through Plotinus and other early Greeks and Romans, and even was the early founding of Theosophy and New Thought and many of today's spiritual traditions. Anyway, Pythagoras described the journey and the immortality and the rhythm that the soul goes through. I kind of wondered, where is this all going to? He also described the relationship of our inner life to our outer life. So 500 BC. And I know before that, Hermes, some of the founders of very, very early thinking, as within, so without, as above, so below. This has been as long as humans have taken the time to sit down and think about why we're here, who we are, and where we're going, have come to a very similar conclusion. That the journey is to realization of a oneness with a divine presence. So I feel pretty confident that I'm kind of going to go along with that. I haven't come up with a better idea on where this is headed. Pythagoras also described the pattern and the rhythms of the universe. He was a mathematician, so he brought around descriptions of how, what kind of a pattern this evolution was taken, and came up and described it not as a linear line that kind of steadily increased as we moved through what we described as time. He described it as more of a circular pattern, and not the circle, but not just in the, you ever feel like you're back to where you started from? You know, as a country or as a human being, I'm back in the same situation with my second marriage as I had in my first marriage. Or looking at maybe starting another war. Yeah, we don't need any hands on this.
You seem to be describing a spiral.
Yes, thank you. It's more of a spiral, isn't it? Each time we come around to a similar set of circumstances, we're at a different place. We're at a higher, or at least a different place. Hopefully it's a higher. And what our ancients have described is that, yes, it is a higher. We cannot be at the same place, and we cannot be less conscious than we were the last time around. And that also a second characteristic of spiritual evolution is that it's continually expanding and going higher. Even in spite of some of the things that we see in the world, consciousness is expanding and moving upward and finding greater and more clear expression of the oneness toward which we're headed. Isn't that kind of a comforting feeling? As far as a framework for me to travel through this world and to observe its ups and downs and ins and outs and its failings and its successes, having that as a backdrop really gives me some deep comfort. I don't know about you, but that works for me. And I sometimes lose track of where we're all going and think that maybe we're headed toward more chaos, but that's only an illusion, and a necessary illusion. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. The Hindu mystic Aurobindo, just to say that other traditions have come to the same conclusion, it's described as a progression. Evolution is a progression from the inanimate matter to a future state melding with the divine. And he called it the supermind, the consciousness of supermind. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, the Jesuit priest and philosopher, referred to this endpoint as the omega point, or Christ consciousness, the Christ. Others describe evolution, I mean, it really is very, very common. It's having 4 or 7 stages, or I know some descriptions of theosophy talk about the human race going through several iterations of root races on up through. Anyway, to me it all says that however we describe it, however we are sensing it, that it's sort of, there's enough spiritual guidance in coming through us, especially our deeper thinkers, that reinforces the idea that this is all moving toward goodness and abundance and compassion, in spite of some of the things that we observe. Okay, so that's evolution, and that's spiritual evolution. The expansion of consciousness, the self-knowingness of spirit, and it really kind of stands, when I think about it myself, it really can't be anything else than a continual move toward self-realization of our godliness, of the Christ consciousness in each of us. Because we know that spirit continually expands. Spirit doesn't expand, but the expression of spirit expands. And diversity and so forth, so that consciousness expands along with it. It cannot go backwards. The universe and each one of us are naturally evolving toward the expression of divine nature. All life evolves in the direction of greater fullness of that life, greater expression of spirit, expression of the unconditional love, harmony, peace, and abundance. All of life is already one with spirit. It's only our awakening and our realization of that truth that needs continual evolvement, expansion. So again, why is it important to think about this and to kind of become clear on the backdrop, or at least the narrative, the story of what evolution is and what our role in it is. I mean, basically, it helps me make sense of the world. And it helps me come to a choice here. Because if evolution is happening with me or without me, it cannot help it. So I can just sort of working out pretty good over there.
Yeah.
So when you do that, we cannot put a cap on ourselves. Our own expression of God, our own consciousness is expanding. Every breath we take, there is some expansion of consciousness. And as a society, every action and we're a composite of all of the expansions of individuals and systems and organizations. So it can really be nothing else but an expansion toward goodness and fullness. But I have a choice. I can choose to consciously participate with that, consciously be sort of an agent of evolution, or I can just sort of float along. And why is it, to me, it's important to make that distinction, because I'm a choice at every moment whether I choose to recognize that. But when I choose to consciously take part and add my attention and my energy to the continual unfolding of good in my life, in my community's life, and with a spiritual center, what happens there is that I'm aligning myself with that natural flow of goodness. And I'm not holding back and saying, well, I'm not so sure things are going, so you're going to end up in a good place. I can feel the resistance and the closing down. But when I say, you know, stuff is really unfolding for the good, even in spite of apparent chaos and loss and other expressions that may appear to not be so. I know that the truth, and it's up to me to see beyond that, see through it. And then it just opens me up. It helps me to kind of let go. Say, all right, I don't have to know how this works. I just know that it is working. And I just know that if I align myself to its spirit, life energy comes through me clearly and easily, and I can just breathe that through me. I don't have to know the perfect way to do this. I just know that it's working through me, and as I open up to it, my spigot just allows more of it to flow. So that's why it's important to kind of have a frame and then make a choice, because you know it's going to be all right, and it'll be really all right if I do these things. Okay, so choose to go along with it. What can we do? What kind of things can we do? This is the part that really excites me. Remember, it's awakening. So how do we nurture our awakening of this, of the greater flow of goodness? Well, we realize that which is already true. It's already true. How do we grow our realization? Realization is more than just up here. It's that I know this coming. Okay, it makes me feel good. But does it make me feel the flow of spirit? What does it feel like to be one with God, or one with spirit, or one with the goodness of life? And that's where we move from our head to our heart. And that's the task, I think, that we have, is to get beyond just the idea, which is important, but bring it into full expression, make it real, realize it, make it real in our life as us. And so, learning how to do that. There are techniques, there are more things to learn. Take classes. The most important thing we can do is continually learn how we block our own realization of it. Learn techniques, use meditation, learn how we're not only a being in the present, but we're also a being of becoming. That there is the greater part of us is not the physical part of us. What you're seeing in front of you is a very small part of who I am and who you are too. There's a greater part of us that is centered around who we are, the feeling and the experience of being in the present moment. There's another big part of us that's just becoming. This body is the tail end of an evolutionary process. What I really am, the greater part of me, is out here becoming in the world. And we're so focused on what's happening right now, our own drama, that we're failing to create and nurture our own becoming. Letting go, somebody said this morning, of those strings of who we were yesterday. But also creating a space where we're really allowing Spirit to show up as who we are. Taking advantage of the inspirations and the ideas that we have. And really finding a place to nurture that into being. And listening to that inner voice, so we know that what the impulse is truly who we are. So, learning how to do that. Take classes. We have classes here at CSL. We've had a number of really, the ULab, theory U stuff we've done, really brings that into a very practical way for us to get in touch with our emerging future as individuals, as an organization, as a country. Just learning how to do that. Upcoming, moving from the head to the heart, the work in February, we have David MacArthur coming. And we have a book club starting on the 21st talking about the intelligent heart. So learning and then applying is what we can do to get ourselves in alignment with and further evolution in the right way. Cultivate a support network. That one of the most important roles of our center here is to provide support for spiritual unfolding, no matter what path person is choosing. Learn, this is the last one I want to touch on. Sorry for hurry up here. Learning how to be in the world, but not of it. That seems to be our work of these times. How to be in the world as spirit, but not be distracted by or not be captured by the drama of events that we seem to see around us. The news media, and it's not their fault, it's our fault. It's our characteristic. We're attracted by what's wrong, or the drama, or the sensationalism, and we get captured by it. And so we think that is reality. And so wherever we put our attention, energy flows there. So what we need to train ourselves to do, first realizing this is going on, waking up to it, training ourselves to say, okay, I want to notice we're putting kids in cages. Big faces. I want to notice that, but I want to step back. Even if we lose ourselves for a moment, to know this is going on, this is who I am. And I'll step back and get back centered where I am and respond from my point of greatest power, the center within me. With my greatest wisdom as to how to respond, my greatest compassion, my strongest response. So learning how to do that, not get distracted or captured by all that, is living in the world and being an effective agent of love, compassion, and kindness. So we immediately allow our emotions to come out and then collect ourselves and say, all right, what is mine to do here? And act from there. So again, I want to just summarize quickly that we're here to express life through us. And we're here to choose. We're given free will. We're here to choose to be in alignment with that life, with the progression and the expansion of that life, or choose not to. Choosing to allows the feeling of that life coming through us in full force, and live a life of passion and not of stress. Be a full agent of the unfolding of goodness and light in the world. So, thank you for being here this morning. I love this topic. And y'all.